Dear students, welcome to another English class. This is Swamy Vijay speaking to you all. In this video, I am going to take the second part of the story Last Spring. I have already completed the first part of the story Last Spring. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. If you have not yet watched that video, here is a card. You can click this card and you can watch that video. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. The first part of the Last Spring story. Now before we move to the next part of the story Last Spring, I would like to ask you one question. Can you tell me some names of foolish traditions? Traditions, of course, we have so many traditions in our Indian culture. Even Americans also have so many traditions. Even Africans also have so many traditions. But I am asking about the foolish traditions you know. If you know any foolish tradition, please comment in the comment section below so that I can know what the foolish traditions you have understood, and others can also know that what have you understood about that particular tradition. I am not going to take up any kind of serious traditions here before I start the second part of the story. I would like to tell you one foolish tradition which we have been following for so many years, but nobody realized yet that that is a foolish tradition. But don't take this answer very seriously. It may hurt some people, but in a joking manner, in a fun manner, I am giving this foolish tradition. The name of the foolish tradition which is being followed by so many people on the planet Earth since ages is the institution of marriage. Are you shocked? Are you smiling? Are you baffled? Are you confused? To listen from my side. Of course, marriage is a sacred tradition in so many cultures, but it is also one of the foolish traditions human beings have been following for centuries together. Of course, those people who are wise, those people who are liberated, those people who are having liberal values, those people who are highly educated, they can easily understand what I am speaking here. If you are not able to understand, then wait for my further videos. In that videos, I will explain clearly why marriage is a foolish tradition as per the present day condition and circumstances. But why did I ask you the question about practicing foolish traditions is, in India, not only in India, in most parts of this world, following foolish traditions leads to poverty, and grinding poverty and foolish traditions are the reasons for people suffering on this planet Earth. People suffer in their life because of grinding poverty, which we already discussed in the first part of the story, in the first video. And the second reason for our sufferings and our misery in the planet Earth is traditions. People who follow foolish traditions, they suffer. If you don't believe how serious people follow these foolish traditions, you watch this video, you'll understand how foolishly people are following these foolish traditions for generations to generation, and people are passing these foolish traditions from one generation to another generation.
Number 1. Cutting off fingers. The death of a family member in the Dani tribe of Indonesia heralds a vast amount of emotional, and for women, physical pain. Aside from the inevitable emotional grief, women of the Dani tribe physically express that grief by cutting off by compulsion a segment of one of their fingers. Before being amputated, the fingers are tied with a string for 30 minutes to numb them. Once amputated, the new fingertips are burned to create new scars. The Toraja people of Indonesia practice a truly singular ritual of exhuming the corpses of their fellow villagers, but it doesn't end there. The corpse is draped in special garments and paraded around the village. Even the bodies of children and bodies that are decades old are exhumed. The ritual is mainly carried out in order to clean the corpses, their garments, and coffins, and to ceremonially return the corpses to their home villages. That is, if someone died outside the village, the corpse will be taken to the spot of death.
You may claim that it is their tradition, it has its own values. Of course, it has a value, but if you understand this in a scientific way, you can understand that this is completely bullshit. It is just a kind of torture to the human beings. We have so many other sophisticated ways to treat these kind of ailments and diseases without following these kind of foolish traditions. These are the traditions which are the reason for the misery and sufferings of so many women in this world. I cannot show you all those kind of foolish traditions which have been followed by so many people on this planet Earth, because you are all class 12 students. I cannot expose you to such kind of worst traditions in this world. But if I get a chance in future videos, I will definitely try to share with you all those kind of foolish traditions which deprive the lives of dignity of women and men in this planet Earth. As I told you already, last spring lesson has two parts. Now let us move to the second part of the story. The title of the second part of the story is I Want to Drive a Car. Is it a big dream to drive a car? Is it very rare to drive a car? Is it almost impossible for anybody to drive a car? It is not that much impossible for anybody to drive a car, but for Mukesh, in the central character, it is his dream to drive a car. He wants to become a motor mechanic because he was forced to work in the glass blowing industry in Firozabad. Firozabad is known for glass blowing industry, where most of the people work in glass blowing industry. They manufacture bangles. Glass blowing industry, or you may call it as a bangle industry. There are 29,000 children who are working as a child labor in this bangle making industry or glass blowing industry. Because of working in the glass blowing industry, they have lost their eyesight. Children during their childhood, they were forced to enter in this glass blowing industry or bangle making industry, and because of that, they were suffered with so many diseases and they have lost their eyes also. In this story, the central character is Mukesh. He wants to drive a car. He wants to come out of the traditional work of bangle making. Anis Jung interacted with Mukesh and Mukesh took her to his house. While Anis Jung was going to Mukesh's house, she saw the pathetic condition in which these people were living in the Firozabad. Those people were child laborers, and those families were living in those streets of bangle making industry. Because of their poverty and as they were forced into the bangle making industry, they have to survive here only. They don't have any other work to do, and they don't know even any other work to do. When Mukesh took Anis Jung to his house, she found a young girl already as a bohu working in the household preparing meal for the whole family. She was hardly 13 or 14 years old, but she was forced into the institution of marriage. Now she is having the responsibility of being a bohu of that house, and she was preparing meal for the entire family. Not only that girl, there were so many other girls who are in the Firozabad who already entered into the institution of marriage and took the responsibility of a bohu, and they were serving the whole family. Not only Mukesh, his entire family, his father, his mother, his grandmother, his grandfather, all are involved in this glass blowing industry. Glass blowing industry or a bangle making industry is a hazardous industry where child labor is not permitted, but still these people work in that hazardous industry because they don't have any other way to survive. They don't have any other way to earn money. So all these were forced into the bangle making industry or the glass blowing industry. As they work very close to the burning furnaces and in dingy cells, their eyes lose sight. Before they become adults, most of these children lose their eyesight. Most of the people who are working in this glass blowing industry lost their eyesight before they turn into adults. Even though these people are working in the glass blowing industry or bangle making industry for generations to generations, but still they suffer with poverty. Because they are forced to take up this traditional job, they want to continue in their traditional job only. That is the reason why they still suffer from poverty. They can't even offer standards of living in the Firozabad. There is also a story about a young girl, Savita, who entered into the glass blowing industry and supporting her grandmother. The reason is they don't have any other work to do to survive in this place. When Anis Jung questioned these people, why don't they united and to form into a cooperative society to get out of this kind of poverty, then they said that there are a vicious circle of people who don't allow them to come out of this traditional job. Because the people who are in this vicious circle, they force these people to work in the glass blowing industry because that is their source of earning. The people in the vicious circle includes shaukas, middlemen, police, bureaucrats and politicians. These people want the workers who are working in the glass blowing industry or bangle making industry to suffer like that for their own benefit and for their own profit. So Anis Jung clearly sees there are two distinct worlds. One world which is suffering to survive, another world where people exploit these poor workers in bangle making industry or glass blowing industry. It is very rare to people of Firozabad who are working in the glass blowing industry to dream something other than working in this industry. But Mukesh has a dream to become a motor mechanic. He wants to drive a car. When Anis Jung asked Mukesh, how can he drive a car, how can he become a motor mechanic. He told her he doesn't know exactly, but he wants to drive a car and he wanted to become a motor mechanic. He wanted to come out of this glass blowing industry or bangle making industry. He wants to break the tradition of working in the glass blowing industry from hereafter. Is it easy? He has great hope to come out of the traditional job and to become a motor mechanic, and he wanted to change his life. Do you believe that Mukesh can become a motor mechanic and he can change the tradition of his family, coming out of the bangle making industry or coming out of the glass blowing industries, to go in his own way, in his own path? Is it easy? I know that you may be having still doubts that Mukesh can't succeed in his life. To make you to understand whether Mukesh can succeed in his life to become a motor mechanic, to break the tradition or not, let me tell you the most interesting experiment I have read few days back. The name of the experiment is Hope Experiment. You have to watch this video to understand the importance of having hope and belief in our life. Hope can change anything in your mind. Being positive and having hope can change your entire personality, entire way of thinking, and entire approach and entire perspective, entire perception of your life. Let me explain very briefly the hope experiment now. In 1957, Dr. Kurt, who is a professor in Harvard University, conducted a brutal experiment on rats. The name of this experiment is the Hope Experiment. In this experiment, Dr. Kurt placed rats in a pool of water or in a glass of water and tested how long they can tread on water or how long they can float on the water. How many minutes you believe that the rats which are domesticated can float on the water or tread water? So these rats lasted only 15 minutes and they started sinking into the water or drowning into the water. Dr. Kurt and his students took the rats out of the water and they kept the rats outside. After few minutes, once these rats recovered from the exhaustion of swimming on the water, again they put these rats inside the pool of water or a glass of water. Now you tell me, how long these rats might have tried to swim or float or tread in the pool of water or in the glass of water? Can you tell me how many minutes these rats would have survived? 15 minutes? 20 minutes? Half an hour? 1 hour? The experiment proved that these rats survived for 60 hours. These rats kept on swimming and trying to float on the pool of water or in the glass of water for 60 long hours, more than 2 days. What made these rats to float and swim for more than 60 hours? In the first attempt, they could swim, they could float on the water only for 15 minutes. But second time, they started floating on the water, they started swimming on the water for more than 60 hours. What made these rats to float on the water, swim on the water continuously for 60 hours? The reason is they believed that when they get exhausted and once they started drowning into the water, sinking into the water, these people will come and definitely save them. So the hope in rats made them to swim or float 60 long hours on water, and ultimately these rats were not saved by Dr. Kurt or by his students, and ultimately and eventually these rats died in the pool of water. But what this brutal experiment proves to all of us, that if we have a hope, we can survive for longer hours. If we have hope, we can fight for our survival for longer hours, believing and trusting, having a belief that somebody will come and save us, somebody will come and protect us. So this is about the experiment, the hope experiment. Don't understand this experiment in a negative way, take this experiment in a positive way. If we have hope, we can live longer in life. We will face our problems with a different perception. The rats drowned into the water not because they have lost hope, it is because they couldn't control their aggressive and anger and emotions. That is the reason why rats drown into the water. It is not because of the physical exhaustion, it is because of lack of controlling their emotions. I hope you have understood the importance of hope experiment in your life. Have a hope in your life and you will live much better life. Thanks for watching this video, and if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, channel, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell notification so that you can receive latest information about the videos once I upload in the YouTube. Thanks for watching this video. Stay home, stay safe.